and happy Friday. It is another Mavens of Manufacturing Day. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Angie Simon, and she is the co-founder and president of the Heavy Metal Summer Experience, or HMSE. HMSE. That was hard for me to get out. And then she is also the director and peer group facilitator for Maxim Consulting Group. And I think you're recently retired, correct? Like you just recently retired.
Right. Like 7 months ago, I officially retired from Western Allied Mechanical.
That's awesome. So we'll dive into that later on. But first, I want to start at the very beginning. Like, the skilled trades is something that we kind of put on the back burner in some of our school systems. And now there's this effort where we're trying to pull them back in and get kids really excited. So when you were younger, before you entered into this sector, like what were some of the things you were really passionate about? And was this something that you thought you were going to get involved with and have a career in? Or were you thinking about something else?
I loved math and science, so that was good. Growing up in grade school and stuff, we did not, though, have any shops in our schools or anything like that. But my dad was an electrical engineer. I remember him building a Heathkit TV where he built his own TV. And as a kid, I thought that was awesome. So I remember that kind of stuff was fun. I ended up going into mechanical engineering at Cal Poly. And the reason I went into that was because at the time I went to college, solar energy was a big deal. And I kind of thought, wow, solar energy and energy conservation. And that ended up being in the HVAC solar option. I think I got into construction more than anything, though, because, I'm very involved in sports, played softball in college, and I played all the sports growing up. And to me, construction was about teamwork. And I loved the fact that I could get out in the field and be part of the team, and I would work with my field foreman, and I'd be the project manager, and we as a team could make this project happen. And so I think that's I just enjoyed the teamwork side of construction.
So how was that experience for you? Because, we have construction all over the place, and most of the time I'm not seeing a lot of women on the sites. And if I do see them, they're generally the ones holding up the signs, and then the guys are like, I'm not trying to be mean here, but some of the guys it looks like they're just standing around and supervising. Hopefully, I don't know what they're actually doing, but I hear a lot of talks now about some things that they're trying to change to really attract more women into the field of construction. So how was your experience like when you first started out?
Well, and Meaghan, I'm much older than you. So this was in the late 80s that I first started out in construction. And so, we're talking going on almost 40 years here in a few more years. And so there was 2 women in the 100 people engineering class that I was in at Cal Poly. When I got out into the field, when I got out into construction, I was working for a design build contractor as a project manager. And we were out in the field a lot and overseeing things. And in general, I was always the only woman. But, I was a bit oblivious to that. I mean, it was the kind of thing, maybe the sports thing. I've always been part of the team, and I always felt pretty included at my company. So that was awesome. But I will say, in the course of the time, as I've matured and got further up in the company and became our president and CEO at Western Allied, I started realizing that we had more women at Western Allied than most normal companies. And I think that had a lot to do with the fact that we had a woman as president. And that was unusual. And I didn't realize I was kind of such the unicorn. But, I think, I could tell some stories about some very awkward situations I had, particularly when I was young in the first 5 to 10 years, being told that they don't allow girls in the job trailer. And I'm like, I'm the project manager. Well, we don't allow girls. And I'm like, I'm a girl. Yes, but why? I mean, I'm the project manager. So you had to deal with that. I had an inspector call me the secretary, and he wouldn't walk the job with me to get the final sign off. So he said, I don't walk jobs with secretaries. I said, I'm an engineer and I'm the project manager. He says, well, you got to reschedule your foreman. And I said, well, I'm going to call your boss and let him know the reason the tenant's not moving in is because you wouldn't walk it with the project manager. And then he got really mad and said, you'll do that? And I said, I absolutely will call your boss. And then he signed my card without even walking it and left. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, can you dive a little bit deeper in Western Allied Mechanical and tell us a little bit more about that company and how that journey was? Because, there is statistics out there that 1 in 4 leaders in male-dominated industries are women. And there's a lot of conversations and discussions around, what we can do as a whole to really get more women in leadership positions, because they do offer a lot of benefits and
Yes.
advantages for that. We just have a different way of thinking. And to be honest, I think we're just better at getting things done. So it would be a great benefit for companies to have us in leadership positions. So how was that journey for you? Like what were some of the things that you love doing about it? What were some frustrating things that you didn't like doing about it? Like tell us about that.
Well, I never planned on being a president of a company when I started my career. I mean, I never looked that far forward, and I loved being a project manager. I loved running the projects and overseeing the projects and working with my team. That was great. And I got good at that. And then I'm also was comfortable building relationships with my clients, and my clients liked calling me after a while. So I started kind of helping sell work to them. And the next thing you know, I got offered partnership within Western Allied. And I actually, interestingly enough, I had just gotten married and I got it offered once. And at the time we were going to have kids, I thought, and I wasn't sure I was going to continue to work. And there was a few things. So I turned it down briefly. Once we had our first son, and my husband and I both agreed we didn't want to move out of the Bay Area. And he said, why don't you see if that opportunity is still there? So we ended up deciding, I'll become a partner. And then worked my way through that and ended up into president of the company in 2008, right when the recession hit, which was a good experience as well to learn how to run a company. But I think when I got to the point where in leadership level, I enjoyed being the leadership side. I enjoyed running things, but I missed running projects a little bit. I mean, I loved the hands-on running projects. So you do miss that a little bit, but part of that is you have to transition and change. And I worked really hard along the way to mentor the next generation below me as well. We started that very early and doing a lot of mentoring. When I took over as president in 2008, we were doing about 40 million. And when I retired in 2000 and I guess you'd call it 2023 at the beginning of this year, we were doing 125 million. So we jumped from 40 million to 125 million over the time that I was president. So we really became a much bigger company. And it was a great experience for me. I will say that when I became president, my field folks, which were mostly men, I had very few women in our field, were super supportive. And maybe because from the very beginning of my career, I always said to them, teach me what you do, because I may be an engineer, but I've never done ductwork or piping in the field. Can you teach me what you're doing? Tell me what you need and I'll get it for you. I think I had that attitude of let's be a team, and I have a lot to learn, and help me. And I think that kind of helped me establish with my field folks how much I respected what they did, what a great job the trades is, and how much talent and how smart they were. I mean, maybe they didn't go to college, but they were so smart and they were so good at what they did. So I think that respect that I had for them early on helped me as I grew into the management and leadership of the company. I never felt like I wasn't included at Western Allied. I always felt like I belonged there. And we are working really hard in our industry right now to try to change that narrative across the board, and both in the union, in the trade side, and also on the management side, so that more people that don't look like the standard white males that are in our industry will feel like they're included as well.
Well, I was trying to place emphasis too on that. Like most of us who have been in this sector for a really long time, the reason why we are here is because of the support that we've gotten from the guys that came before us. And they have been the ones to encourage us and to keep pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. So I always appreciate the guys that, were on my side instead of the ones that weren't, because I probably wouldn't have stuck around for as long as I have without their mentorship. And I think that word is something we really need to focus on, especially in terms of attracting the next generation to these fields. So, what are your thoughts and insights or your opinion on the gaps that we're facing right now? Because it's not just in construction, it's not just in engineering and manufacturing, it's everywhere. Like there's a lot of industries that are lacking skilled talent. And, there's assumptions made about the next generation where, they don't want to work, or they're too digital savvy, or they just always want to be stuck and do things like easy. So a lot of them want to be influencers. But I've talked to students, and that's not the case at all for the ones that I've talked to. Like they really do want to work. So what are some of your opinions on how to fix these gaps that we're seeing?
Well, I actually think there's a little bit of this the group that I guess I would fall into, the baby boomer group, I
Mhm.
think some of us need to retire, because I think if the millennials get the bad rap, and I think the millennials are way more inclusive and way more accepting of everybody, of all the type of people who are there and the talents that they have, no matter what race, creed, color, color you are, what, whether you're purple or orange or green, they're much more accepting than us baby boomers were. And so and they've also experienced tech and are comfortable with tech compared to the baby boomers. So to me, I see a huge change in the next 10 years within construction, because the tech actually in the last 5 years is finally starting to be accepted in construction. And that has to do with the fact that our millennials are really starting to get into management positions now, and they're starting to push the acceptance of tech. But I also think they'll push the acceptance of women and minorities in our trades a lot easier, trades and in the offices, a lot easier than the baby boomers do. So that's one step, which is just going to happen naturally. I mean, and some baby boomers, I look at myself and feel like I'm accepting of people,
Yeah.
but I do feel like that's one of the things that'll help. I also do think the more focus we have on it, the better. And I do feel like, yes, there is some kids and the generation after the millennials that don't want to work, but I think the majority of them do, particularly when they find out, wow, what they can do in construction and manufacturing as well. But when they see what they can make, and they can do this with their hands, and they can be proud of what they did, I think that they're going to like the construction industry.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the high school that I graduated from, I actually went and visited them, and they were actually building a wall in
Oh,
their classroom out of cinder blocks. And the leader of the group was a girl. And I was just like completely blown. She was the only girl in the class. And
she
she
led.
just walked around with such confidence. And I was like, man, when I was your age, I was like hiding in corners and like crying most of the time because I just didn't have confidence and I was so introverted. But she was just like, hey, we got to do this. And she was really excited. And I asked her like why she picked that specific class, and she's like, I just love working with my hands. And
Yeah.
she's like, I also love, and she mentioned the team aspect too, and I think she actually played for one of the sports teams, and she's like kind of made that similar connection you did with working on a team and then taking that and putting it to real life situations. She's like, I just love hanging out with people and I'm very sociable. And she's like, and we get to make these cool things. And she took me into another classroom where they built a divider, and she's like, I helped build that. And she was so proud of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I just can't wait to see like where this industry goes and what type of advancements they make, because technology is always changing. So yeah, she was super excited about it. And it's like, that's what we got to do. We got to tap into their excitement and
Yeah.
help teachers too, because teachers can't do it on their own. I do want to pull in some comments because we're getting some comments. Hank said hi. Hi, Hank. Hi,
Hi, Hank.
ladies. So he has two daughters, Peyton and Aiden, that watch every week, and he calls them the junior board of directors. So I'm super
Excellent.
excited that they're here. And
Yeah.
then we have Justin. He's making Little Rascal references. So when they wouldn't let you in the trailer, I was thinking the same thing, Justin, when she said that. I was just like, that's Little Rascals right there.
Yeah.
And then he said, I found a shocking number of young kids who get absolutely stoked on working with their hands. So we need to help foster that in a great career. So I want to really dive into with the heavy metal summer experience. But one other thing that caught my eye about you is the Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning Contractors National Association. So you were a member of that and also a leader. So can you tell us what that group is and
Sure.
what your experience was there? Because you were like the first
First
president.
woman, yeah, first woman president. So SMACNA, which is the Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning Contractors National Association. So as Western Ally, we were a mechanical contractor that was signatory to the Sheet Metal Union and the Piping Union. And so the Piping Union has MCAA, which is a Mechanical Contractors Association. And then the Sheet Metal has the Sheet Metal Association, the Mechanical Contractors Association. And we belong to both. I just happened to be the one in the office that handled the sheet metal side. But so I got on our local board back in, I don't know, 2002 maybe, to help. I mean, the board is the group that helps us negotiate as contractors, as a group of union contractors. We have to negotiate with the union. and for our rates and everything. And so that we do that as an association. So it's our association that helps us. So besides that, they do a lot of other things. They provide education. They provide education for us. They provide, technical help. I mean, they are the ones who set the standards for the construction industry within sheet metal and ductwork. So I ended up joining the local board and then worked my way up to being president on the local board. And we had not had a woman on our local board. We had a woman on the local board, but we'd never had a woman president on our local board. Same time I was president of our local board, they asked me to join the national board. And so I said, well, sure, that sounds good. And it was a 4-year term, no problem. 2008, I joined the national board. And I found out that first day when I went, they have 2 board meetings a year and they're in nice places. So it's not too much heavy lifting. I get to the board meeting and I find out they'd never in 65 years had a woman on their national board. I'm like, wow, okay. But then I also learned that a lot of sheet metal contractors were family-owned businesses. So I'm like, well, where are all the women in the family-owned businesses? If they're, I don't understand it. So, and then it was cute because halfway through that first meeting, we had lunch, and 3 different board members, guys, of course, because I'm the only woman on the board, came up to me and said, I never knew a woman could know that much about air conditioning. And I'm like, I kind of wanted to say, well, what rock did you crawl out from underneath? But I didn't. I just said, well, thank you. I'd like to show you that I know a lot about air conditioning. So
you should have said you were a robot.
Yeah, that I'm a cyborg or something.
Yeah, I'm a cyborg.
So 4 years on that board was a really great experience. I mean, I think the people on the board across the country, it's United States and Canada, were a really good experience for them to experience a woman who actually knew what she was doing and was not afraid to speak up, etc. So then after I got off that board, they kept asking me, will you go through the chairs? And that's a pretty big commitment when you're vice president and president. President-elect and president, because you travel a lot and you have a business to run. But on top of that, I had 2 sons, and one was still in high school and the other one just started college. And so I put it off for a few years, but finally a bunch of my girlfriends were out on a girls' weekend and they got me drunk and they said, they talked me into doing it. So, and I said, okay, I'll do it. So I ended up, and my husband was on board. So I ended up going through the chairs. And so in the mechanical trades, the sheet metal, the piping, and the electrical, unionized trades, none of the associations had ever had a woman. So I was our first woman president in 75 years of the association. And we have another woman going in this October in SMACNA as well. So we'll have the second woman president, and we got to get the pipe fitters and the electricians off their dime and have them get a woman president next. So
that's really cool though. Yeah. So did you ever figure out like where the women were in these small family-owned businesses? Because I've met some small family-owned businesses and I'm pretty amazed to see like how involved the women are. Like there's a company in automation called FlexLine, and it's just really refreshing to see because it's kind of it's a mother-daughter duo. And of course the husband's involved too, but they really focus on the mother and the daughter in the business, and they're just so fun to talk to, and they're really proud of like the stuff that they're doing in their business. And like, have you seen a shift at all since you've been the president where they're being more involved?
Yes. I mean, right now, literally when I was on the board the first time in 2008, I was the first woman. After I left the board, we had more women on the board. Currently, I think we have 3 women on the board. Carol Duncan, who's going in as president in October, her daughter is taking over the business from her when she retires. And her husband was a sheet metal worker, and he's been retired for a long time. So, but I mean, they kind of did the business, but she's been in that business, sole owner of it with her husband, but he was kind of been retired. So we're seeing a lot more women. I think where the women were back then was they were very involved in the businesses. A lot of times they did either the accounting and stuff, but I think the guys just always figured that they were the ones that had to go to these board meetings and be on the boards because it was a guy thing, and they never thought of their women. So when I got up there as president of SMACNA, in my speech to everybody, I stressed to them, I said, I love this industry. It's a great industry, and you all know that because it's been good to you too. So you want your sons and your nephews to be in the industry. Well, why don't you want your daughters and your granddaughters and your nieces? I said, it's a great industry. So I said to them, now that you've seen that a woman can do this, we need to see more women in it. And we're getting a lot of support. I mean, we really, really are. Our Women in Construction group for SMACNA in the Bay Area, we have about like 300 people on our mailing list, and we have amazing meetings and stuff. So we're getting
That's
there.
awesome.
We're getting there.
I like the fact too that they're doing more progressive steps for moms in the sector too. So I just I don't know if you're the one who told me about this, but there's some sites of construction sites where they're actually incorporating breastfeeding
Yeah, so
pods so
that,
that if
I did tell you about that. That
yeah,
up in Seattle, our SMACNA group up there, their board voted to manufacture 2 of these nursing pods, and they will be delivered if you are at a job site and your job site has a nursing mom, then they'll deliver one of those until that job is over. And so they've just got
that's so cool.
they just arrived, and so they're just now figuring out how to get the message out that, hey, if you need one, tell us and we'll send it out to that. So
That's such a great idea. That's
yeah.
so cool. I have 3 kids and unfortunately none of them like latched to me. So most of my kids were bottle fed, but I I have a ton of friends who were just
Yeah.
like, yeah, we work in a male dominated industry. So sometimes we either have to go into the bathroom or we have to go
Or
into our car.
in your
And
car.
it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's 2023. How are we
Yeah.
still here?
So I'm
So that's
excited about that too. You'll start seeing more press on it because we're trying to get the word out that I think it was a great idea. So
That's really cool. Well, let me know how I can help because I'll push that out for sure.
okay,
Because
okay, good.
there's
Well,
so
maybe
many women.
yeah, maybe I could get the exec that's had the idea, Julie Mueller, and the union lady who gave her that idea. Maybe they could be on your show sometime. So
Yes, I would
yeah,
love them to be on here. So, the other thing is too. Recently, there was a LinkedIn post that got brought to my attention, and it was about something that they're doing to change the benefits. I think for pregnant women who are pregnant while working in construction, and one of the comments was like, what is a pregnant woman doing working, or why is a pregnant woman working in construction or something like that? So there was a bunch of women that got on the thread and we were just like, why did you say that? First off. So it's like there's still this belief that if a woman is pregnant, there's certain limitations probably for them. And like I did CrossFit all the way up until I was 8 months pregnant with most of my kids. So it's just
yeah.
like we
I,
got to stop having this perception that when women get pregnant that they're like all of a sudden this fragile human being because
yeah,
that's not the case. Like
that they got to go home and do nothing but sit in bed all the time. And
yeah.
I mean, I went to meetings until I was 8.5 months pregnant, and I mean, I kept going to meetings, and I would be in the job site trailers. I did stop going on the roofs, when I got to a certain point of my
Well,
pregnancy.
right.
But
That makes sense.
I played baseball with guys until I was about 5 months pregnant. Then finally, I think they got more uncomfortable with me playing than I did. So, but
Well, I was at a trade show and I was only like 3 or 4 months pregnant. So you couldn't really tell because I had some baggy clothes on, but I was like pulling 200-pound tables out of crates and stuff because I was one of the only people there. And the 3 people that were there, 2 of us were girls. So I was like pulling them out. The other girl was doing something. And then we had the guy, and a union guy came up and he was like, looked at me and I was like, what are you staring at? And he goes, I'm not trying to be rude, but do you have a baby bump? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he goes, how far along are you? And I like told him how far along I was. What the hell are you doing pulling these giant tables out of crates? And I'm like, no one else is here to do it. You gotta do it. And I was like, it's totally fine. No, if I
yeah,
couldn't do it, I would get help. Like, it's okay. And he goes, that's not okay. So he like got other people to come and like help us. So it was kind of cool that
yeah,
he was,
yeah,
but he couldn't help us because he was part of the union. So, but
yeah.
it was just super funny that there was such a concern. I like, if I couldn't do it, I wouldn't do it. It's
Well,
okay.
I'm in the Bay Area, and the San Francisco Giants, the baseball team here, has a female coach. She does a lot of the coaching. She's in the dugout all the time. She got married last year. She's just announced that she's pregnant. So I think it's going to be neat to see her continue to coach all the way to the time the season's over, and then once I think she's due in early February, so right when spring training is going to start. And I mean, I just think it's good for the guys just to have to experience that. Somebody who
Yeah.
can still hit ground balls for infield with her belly bump.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt her a
Yeah.
bit.
Well,
So,
so I'm a huge fan of CrossFit, and there's an Australian CrossFitter. Her name is Thule. I don't remember her first name. Thule. I think I just botched her name, but she was posting videos of her doing all these exercises and lifting heavy weight all the way up until she was 8 months pregnant.
yeah,
And as a woman, you're just kind of like, oh, like
yeah,
that, but it's cool to see that women are being more comfortable, being more active, and it's actually better for the baby. Yes, definitely listen to your doctor and make sure that everything's okay
Right.
and you're adjusting your weights as you progress in your pregnancy. But as long as you have that communication with your medical personnel,
Yeah.
and just pay attention to your body signals, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Courtney said, I love that duo. So the duo we were talking about earlier was Kathy and Lauren from Flexline Automation. So if you don't
Got
know
it.
them, go
Okay.
look them up because they're a great mother-daughter duo. And then we have Pete, who says, thank y'all for being so understanding. I don't know what that's for, but maybe just because we appreciate our men allies. And then Justin's agreeing with Courtney. And then I don't know who this is. LinkedIn's being weird. That nursing pod is idea is super. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And then I chose to go to my car, but I was provided a private room by Greg to pump back in 2015. I kept working until the last few days of my pregnancy, but my coworkers helped me do all of the bendovers. Steve Femster too, all the best times. So
Yeah.
see, we
Yeah.
got help.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. I would think that people, the guys that have had kids themselves, I mean, they've watched their wives
Yeah.
go through it. They should be not quite so scared of it all. But
Yeah.
I laugh because women actually have the babies. Guys think that we're like made of glass, but we're the ones who actually have the babies. We're a lot tougher than they are, really. I think
Yeah.
they would be afraid
Yeah.
to have the babies. So
That's super funny.
yeah.
Well, I want to get into the heavy metal summer experience because again, we have this gap going on, and then we have the next generation's not really aware of what's available to them either. And I think this program that you started can be one part solution of that. So can you explain to us what this heavy metal summer experience is? No, it's not like a bunch of bands
Yeah.
getting together and headbanging. I
Well,
just saw that meme
yeah.
earlier today. And like, what inspired you to start it?
Yeah, well, we love the name. I mean, it was a fun name, and it, like we use a gear, like your gears up there, the pink gears. We use a gear as part of our logo for heavy metal. And I think you can kind of see it behind me there. And
Yep.
so heavy. So what happened there was 2020. I'm at Western Allied, and I'm focused on getting us. I was CEO. I'm focused on getting us through the pandemic. But my partner, who is now our president, he and I are talking. He has 4 boys, and his oldest son, the time was maybe 14. And Peyton just wasn't a kid that was very good at school. He didn't like school that much, but he was awesome with his hands. And so he had taken an arts class the prior summer in 19 in Oakland and learned about working with metal and welding a little bit. So that summer, when you weren't technically allowed to get together, he asked our shop superintendent, who does our piping side, if he would possibly consider staying after work and giving Peyton welding lessons. And so Peyton did some welding lessons with our shop guy. And Mike had told us that Peyton was a better welder than most of his guys. He was pretty impressed. But that's when Zach said, gosh, Peyton, he has a lot of friends. There's so many kids that I wish they knew about the trades. Peyton will know about it because my dad was a sheet metal worker, and his dad was a sheet metal worker. And so he goes, but people don't know about it. And we talked about the fact that way back when there used to be auto shop and wood shop and things, but there isn't anymore. So I said to him, we were in Menlo Park, and East Palo Alto in the Bay Area is a very underserved area. And we're in their backyard. I mean, we work with that community a lot. We've always done a lot of different give back things. So I said to him, why don't we host a summer camp and teach the kids of East Palo Alto, the high schoolers, about the trades? Because that's a group that really could use direction, and probably a lot of them aren't going to go to college. And he says, yeah, I'm too busy. And I said, well, I'm not. What the heck? I'll figure it out. So I wrote up a business plan, and I presented to my partners and said, hey, it's going to cost us like 30 grand or something to run this camp the first year. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. So I thought that was great. Later in that year, later in October of 2020, there was a roundtable virtually for our convention for SMACNA. And one of my peer group members up in Seattle, Hermanson, they're in my peer group, and he's a friend of mine. They heard there was a roundtable that we had online about workforce development. So I shared the idea that I was going to run this camp. So he calls me up as soon as the roundtable was over and said, can I do it with you? So I said, sure. So it was really great because what we had to do in the beginning of in January, February, March of 21 was we had our sheet metal and our piping guys get together on Zoom calls to come up, okay, what projects are we going to have the kids do? So they had fun. They were developing the projects. One of the guys was taking him home and doing them at home with his daughter to see if she thought it was cool. So we ended up developing projects that the kids would make. And we figured a schedule, we figured out release forms, we figured out permission slips. We started working on all the logistics, and we had 28 kids. So I had 16 kids that summer and he had 12. And the camps went great. I mean, we ran up from 2:30 to 5, Tuesdays and Thursdays in our shop, so that it was after the shop was done. And
Okay.
we worked with East Palo Alto, and I had 16 kids. I had 15 minorities, and the only white kid was my safety director's kid, because we were short one kid, so he jumped in. We had 6 girls that first summer, and
Wow.
it was amazing. So we let me tell you a quick story. At the graduation for Hermanson, there was a young woman that was one of the young women in the camp. The mom came up to Jana and said, "Can I talk to you?" And she pulls Jana aside. She says, "I'm a housekeeper and my husband's a framer." She said, "My daughter was very depressed her last semester of senior year. She said, I lost my daughter. It wasn't my daughter anymore. She didn't know what she wanted to do, and she knew she didn't want to go to college. So she did not," she goes, and she started crying. She said, I don't know where my daughter went, but she was not my daughter. She goes, 6 weeks later, she's been in your camp. I have my daughter back. She said, "Thank you so much." She goes, "Your camp changed my daughter's life." That young lady now, for the first 8 months, was a pre-apprentice, and now she's been in the apprenticeship for a year and a half. She is kicking butt. She's so good at what she does. And Hermanson pays her OT. She works during the day, and then they pay her OT to work their camp, because they want her to share with the kids. But if you can change, one kid's life out of every camp,
Yeah.
you're winning, right? You're scoring up points. And we did that first year. And I have my first camp, of my first 16, I have 5 of them from that first camp. And not all of them have graduated high school. So a lot of them are going to be juniors or going to be seniors. But I have 5 of them working in the trades right now. And so that first year we had 28 kids and 2 camps. Rick and I, Hermanson and I, we wrote a playbook. So we wrote a playbook all about how do you do this. And we tried to make it like the easy button. Okay, here's a typical schedule. Here's all your release forms that we would suggest. Here's the projects that we did, and lessons learned, and all kinds of stuff. So we put as much as we could in it, written by contractors, but so not really super fancy or anything. But and then I used that platform as, at that time I was still national president, and I was just starting to travel a lot with SMACNA. And so then when I went around, I talked to everybody, because workforce development was the number one issue with every contractor. We're all worried about the future of where we're going. We don't have enough people. So I shared the idea of the camp, and I shared the idea that we had a playbook, and if anybody was interested, I'd be happy to work with them. And we got 11 locations the next summer. We had 170 kids. So
wow,
yeah,
that's a huge jump.
Yep. And we had some great partnerships. I mean, Milwaukee Tools and then DeWalt Tool both teamed with us. So in summer 2, they both teamed with us. Summer 1, it was just Milwaukee, because we only had 28 camps. So every kid, beginning of camp, gets a set of Red Wing boots, and we fundraised for that. We had great partners like Procore put money into it. We had, Mestec Machinery. They paid for our medals that we gave them for graduation, which I think you can kind of see some of them hanging up over there.
Yeah.
And then we had Milwaukee and DeWalt particularly, and Black & Decker Stanley had a grant that we ended up applying for it once we filed for nonprofit, and that helped a whole lot too. But so there's a lot of vendors and people within our industry understanding that this is a real problem. Well, so this summer we had 22 locations and almost 400 kids, and we were in the United States and Canada. So
wow, see, that's awesome. So are you partnering up outside of the companies that partnered with you in SMACNA, of course, because it sounds like you're getting a lot of leads through that organization as well too. What about like schools? Are you partnering up with any high schools and suggesting this as like maybe an after school type program as well?
So what we're doing right now is I was focused on finding different locations to have these camps. Now, the biggest challenge the first year for the camp, for the contractor or for the training center, is to find the kids. So we suggest go to the high schools, talk to the career tech education group of that, start working with the high schools, and we encourage the high schools to basically, recommend their kids come to this in the summer. And so depending on the location. Now, it was an amazing story. We had a camp in Pomona in Southern California my second summer. And it happened that they had 3 kids from the Laverne High School district one of those was a girl and she was a superintendent of school's daughter, and she loved the camp. So the next summer, I mean, I got an email during this past summer. I got an email in like the February from their counselor from Laverne High School. Laverne High School. She told me how much the kids love the camp and how she's going to recommend a bunch of kids, and how she also realizes now that they should be counseling kids in alternate careers, that they shouldn't be always pushing them to college. And so I thought that was great that our counselors are starting to realize that we got to, I mean, I'm on an advisory board at Cal Poly for engineering. And the dean told me that 1/3 of the kids graduating high school, this is since the pandemic, only 1/3 are going to college. So there's 2/3 of the kids graduating high school right now are not. So, man, the best kept secret is a career in the trades where you make great money and you have benefits and everything else. So we are trying to work with high schools in different locations, but I worked with a nonprofit in East Palo Alto that really had they really, really were looking out for the benefit of the kids. And they've been great to work with too. We've worked with the Boys and Girls Club. So a lot of places, I mean, the foster care system would love to get some of the kids in that.
Yes,
those
absolutely.
that are turning out. Yeah. So,
well, and I just had a conversation with she's a metal artist, Ray Ripple. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she was part of the foster system when she was growing up, and like her past was just traumatic. And she's like, what people don't understand is that there are a lot of kids, not only within the foster system, but in other places that come from a lot of trauma. And she is like, this area of trades is a great avenue for them to kind of get over that and start over. And she's like, you don't have to go to college if you don't want to. And she's like, this actually kind of like gave me a new start and a new path. And she's like, I talk to a lot of kids that come from some pretty dark places, and hopefully they can start in it. So yeah, like even with your story with the mom that was talking about not having her daughter, like that's proof that just the confidence that it instills in individual, especially young girls. So if I can get a chance to meet that girl and maybe interview her, I would love to do that as well, because a lot of us didn't even know that some of these opportunities exist, and we're still struggling with that I see in high schools. Like, how do we talk about these career opportunities and bring awareness to them, because we're still struggling with it.
And we have 2 videos on our website that both from the first summer and then the second summer where we interviewed the kids. And that's what they say. I had no idea this was available to us. So the problem is they didn't know about it. And kids, I mean, the one thing we're learning is the kids love fire. I mean, they want to deal with fire. They want to weld, they want to solder. So one of the camps this year, I thought it was an excellent idea. I wish I would have thought of it, and now we'll probably do it next year. But she had the fire extinguisher providers come, and they taught them how to use fire extinguishers. And I mean, the kids, and they made fires in a pot and a metal pan, and the kids learned how to put those out. I thought that's a great idea. I mean, we're finding when the kids start the camp, they don't even know how to use a tape measure. So kids don't know how to do these things anymore. So, but by the time we recommend about 30 hours total of camp, and by the time they're done, they're very confident. They've made great projects, and they're just beaming. And it re-energizes me going to graduation. So I went to one in Omaha, I went to one in St. Louis, and in Kansas City, and in Albuquerque. And it really re-energizes me, because you see how excited the kids are, but you can also see how excited many of the parents are. And they realize, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity I didn't know about, and my kid seems really engaged in.
Yeah. So, do you have any camps in Wisconsin or Illinois? Because that's where I'm located.
Okay. Well, so next summer we're gonna. I am focused on that. We really, in Chicago, I mean, the Illinois area, and as well as it's actually where Madison. I have a teacher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that's very interested, and he has a great program to get the kids. So he's going to connect me with a contractor, but also the Milwaukee area. So I mean, and Milwaukee Tool is right there, and they're such a great partner to us. So we're going to have in those areas, I'm sure.
Can we remain connected when you do that? Because I would love to be a part of that and volunteer, because that's just such a great, and there are a lot of kids in Chicago. And I'm glad that you mentioned St. Louis too. I'll have to introduce you to Andrew Crow, because he's part of that area. But yeah, I would love to volunteer and
So, and
How
on our website, we have a map of this year's camps where we were this year. When they're all pretty much done now. I think we may have our last graduation today, actually. I think up in
okay.
Seattle area we have a last camp, but we had Buffalo, we had one in Hamilton, Canada, near Ontario, and we had them all over the place this year, Atlanta. So, but I have a few areas of focus, and one of them definitely was Chicago area. I'd like another one. I'd like to get some in New York as well. But we look like we might get one in Texas. I mean, we're going to be all over the place. I anticipate 50 locations next summer, probably
That's
like
awesome.
3 in Canada, and I think maybe close to 800 to 1,000 kids. So my challenge now is I have to scale up. I've got to figure out grant writing because we want to continue to provide the boots for the kids under the program, continue to provide the tools, and I'm going to need to help Milwaukee and DeWalt in that we can't. I mean, they've been amazing because we gave each kid a tool bag with a impact drill, a battery, a charger, with all these hand tools, and they walk away with that. And DeWalt gave me 225 and Milwaukee gave me 225 this last year. But I can't, I think we got to help with that because we can't expect them to do that at the level of 400 to 500 tool bags.
Oh,
so
right. Well, hopefully we can get you connected to people who are watching here. But another question that I just thought of coming up with this, are you talking to any like state or federal representatives too? Because, a lot of this stuff is going to depend on who's making the laws and the policies, right? So are you getting connected at that level, or are you just kind of...
I'm by happenstance to a certain degree. Yeah. Yes, I am. I mean, for example, our ledge group within SmackNet connected me in Omaha with Don Bacon, who's congressman for Omaha.
Okay.
And they actually came to our graduation of our camp. He was still in DC, but he had people come. But I also, by happenstance, it was great because she had heard about the program. Somebody showed up, Amy Lloyd. She's the Assistant Secretary, Office of Career Tech and Adult Education in DC. She came to my graduation in Albuquerque. So, and honestly, amazingly enough, Vice President Harris was just in Seattle. She went to McKinstry and talked at McKinstry, which is one of our contractors who hosted a camp. And he had 2 of his camp kids who graduated take her for a tour of their shop. And I thought, wow, that was so cool of him to let those 2 young men introduce. They got introduced to the vice president, and they toured the shop with her. So we're starting to get there. We need money, but I also would have to I got to be ready to have federal or state grants because there's a lot more I's to dot and T's to cross. I got to get to that point where I ran a company, but I've never run a nonprofit, and it's currently I just hired an assistant. So we're scaling up as quickly as we can. So
that's awesome. Well, maybe we can get you connected to a really good grant writer too, because that whole process is so tedious. That was one of the things that I had to learn how to do when I was going through my master's program. And it's just such a tedious process. And I understand why grant writers make a lot of money because it's not as simple.
The Black & Decker Stanley grant, they have a workforce grant, which is amazing. They put aside Black & Decker Stanley had put aside $25 million to give for workforce development programs for 3 years. And they're on to their 3rd year, but they've just extended it with another $30 million. So we've gotten some grant money, and those I've written, but I know there's more grants out there, and I know that can help. And that's what I need to look at. But I'll get there. Our partners, MCA, which is a Mechanical Contract Association, and NECA, which is electrical, they've been very big partners too. So this is, we mostly are focusing on the unionized size right now because I am a union contractor, and the benefits the union gives are amazing, and the pay is a good scale. So they've been big helps as well. I have a free booth at the NECA convention coming up in September. I had a free booth at the MCA convention. And by having a free booth, we get to show contractors, and that's how we get more contractors to come host the camps. So
we're leaving. Bye.
Okay, my dad just came in here for whatever reason, so sorry about that. So I would love to get connected with you out after this and see where I can help, because I think that would be fantastic. And if we could interview some of your graduated students as well too, and just hear their stories about how this helped them and what benefits they got from it, that would be amazing. I do want to go through some more of these comments. Steve was like, oh no, it's not about headbanging, I'm out, LOL. And then Hanko, got to give the girls a chance to try trade stuff. My gals love it.
Yeah.
And then Steve said, given that vocational training in high schools is sadly mostly a thing of the past, I think ideas like heavy metal summer are super important. My stepfather was a union sheet metal worker. If not for programs like this, I don't know how kids get the
Yeah.
exposure or training to draw them into the trades. There are places that are trying to bring trades back to the schools. So like the high school I graduated from, they're really trying to focus on how they can do that. Those are some awesome sponsors. Yes, that's an amazing way to keep kids interested, give them tools and they will feel valued.
Yep.
I mean, I wish I could get a pair of Red Wing boots. Shoot, those things
I
are
know.
not cheap. And
Yeah,
your
they're
dad,
not. They're not.
yes, I don't know why he did that. My dad is crazy. He has
He
no
just let you
boundaries.
know he's leaving. That's all.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to Minnesota to drop some stuff off because I have a sister out there, but he knows that I'm doing this. So why he did that? I think he's just craving attention somehow, but that's okay. So yeah, there are places that are trying to bring the trades back, and I think
Yeah.
the trades are also very important because they teach kids the soft skills. So the comment that you made where kids don't even know how to use a tape measure, like I can attest to that because my daughter didn't know how to use a
Yeah.
tape measure. And I'm just like, oh, honey, like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
This
So,
is how you
I,
measure it. And
yeah.
the one thing too I say is a lot of the unions. So if you go through in my area, if you go through the 5-year apprenticeship program, so you're making money every 6 months, you get a raise, and if you're an apprentice, first year apprentice, second year, third year. But if you take all those classes and you get done with your 5 years of apprentice, you get an AA degree from our junior college. So the unions have incorporated the English and the soft skill side of it to allow the junior colleges to say, okay, we'll give you an AA degree. So they actually get a degree when they finish their apprenticeship, a 2-year college degree. And then I try to tell these kids, you can hang ductwork or hang pipe all your whole time, but there's so many other things you can do within the trades. In
Yeah.
Magna contractors, I think there's more than 50% of the owners of firms came through the trades. And you don't have to have a college degree, or you can go ahead, you come out with a 2-year degree. You can, while you're working, potentially get your bachelor's if you think you need it. But
Yeah.
you can do test and balance, you can do project management, you can do estimating, you can do CAD, BIM, you can do detailing, you can do robotics. I mean, there's so much. The technology has changed this industry so much, and
Yeah.
you
And
don't have to
college
be
will
a
always be there.
they
It will
it
always
will be. Yeah.
So if you decide to try it out later, I think there's such like an emphasis on, okay, once you do this step, then you got to go to this step and then you
Yeah.
got to go to this step. And it's all about like, prepping for this career and working all these hours. And we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think like you can enjoy life while you're working as well. The other thing too, the reason why I want to stay connected with you is because some of the programs that the high school I graduated from has, I know this would be something they would be interested in
Yeah. Yeah.
encouraging their students to go to. And even the teachers would be interested in
Yeah.
wanting to attend if they could. So let's definitely connect after this. And then Justin said, Angie, I love what you're doing. Would love to somehow be a part of it. So see, we're
Yeah.
already getting
Good.
I'm excited.
Excellent. Well, so my email is on my website, which is it's the www.HMSE, Heavy Metal Summer Experience, so hmse.org. And
Okay.
my website was the one I made a couple years ago, so don't laugh at it. We are going to redo my website later this summer, but or later this fall. But right now it works for us. It has my videos on it. I have an email on it. So I will get back to you. I do promise. Sometimes it takes me a week with being the only one answering emails right now. But I am super excited. I cannot believe the program has taken off so much. It was just a little idea I had, and I'm like,
yeah.
and I incorporated because we thought we should, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, now so much for retirement. I'm failing drastically at it, but that's okay. It's fun.
Yeah.
So,
My dad is part of the baby. He made his appearance earlier. My dad is part of the baby boomers too, and he is 77 years old, and he just does not want to retire. Like he
yeah,
just loves working, and he is looking into maybe coaching a first robotics team. Like I was talking to him
nice.
about
Nice.
some help with that, but he has to get shoulder surgery soon, and they need someone that can commit a certain amount of hours every week. And I was just like, I don't know if you can do that with the shoulder surgery. So we're still trying to figure that out, but he just loves what he does. And he does consulting for different manufacturing companies. And
Yeah.
my mom is always like, when are you going to quit and retire? Like, when are you going to do this? And I think he's just afraid that if he does retire, that means he's going to
Yeah.
die soon
Well,
after, and he's not ready to do that.
I just turned 60. So I told my husband, he's a little older than I am. I said to him, I'm not ready to be done yet, but I want to be involved in the industry. And, honestly, it's fun. I can sleep at night though, because I'm not running a company of, 350 people, but I can sleep well, but then I enjoy this during the day. So it's a lot of fun. I have a passion for it. I'm very excited to talk about it, and I appreciate any opportunity I can share my story. And now I just need to figure out how to make it happen for across the country and Canada. So
that's so wild. That's awesome. Maybe then once it hits Canada, you'll hit other countries too, maybe in Europe or something.
Yeah, I'm okay with just Canada right now.
Big dreams. Well,
yeah.
Angie, this has been a lot of fun, and I just love your energy and your passion and what you're doing. So I want to ask you a last question. For everyone that's tuning in, if you had one ask for them, what is your biggest ask? Because you are growing so rapidly, and you mentioned that your website might be a little dated, but it's working, and you're going to need some help. What would you like to ask our audience today to maybe help with some of your goals?
I think, one of the big things I'd like to ask is because eventually it would be nice if we didn't have to do this anymore, because all of a sudden, somehow or another, construction and working in our trades would be thought of as a really great job. And so don't be afraid to tell people about that possibility of working in the trades. I mean, in construction is you should be very proud to be a construction worker and working in the manufacturing and the trades. One of the things, the mechanical trades, we do a lot more manufacturing lately, a lot more prefabrication, et cetera, in our shops. And because that's a safer way to do work than doing it in the field. And so I guess one of my asks would be, don't, speak highly of construction, tell kids about it. Don't be afraid. I don't care whether you don't think girls can do it. They can, and they love it, a lot of them. So share the message with them. Check out my website. And then, we will be starting a fundraising thing. If anybody would like to fundraise, we're going to have a spot we can have to fundraise as well. And keep an eye on the website, because in probably January, February, we'll have a new map out there of all the places we're going to be next summer. And I think, like I said, we'll be in the close to 50 locations across the United States and Canada. And if you see one in your location, let us know. We'd love somebody, either to come volunteer or just even stop by and just experience a camp, because it's a lot of fun watching these kids work. So,
well, I'm definitely going to stay aware of your website and stuff. And when that map comes out, I'll make sure to share it on all my channels and pay attention to, because it just sounds like a fun camp.
Yeah. And the videos are fun. When you watch those videos, you'll see it's a lot of fun. I mean, the kids are really having a great time with it. So.
I'll take those and share them out as well too, the videos, so that people can see them. Well, Angie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see how the camps keep growing, and how you bring awareness to kids about the trades, because it's something that we need to do a better job at. And I think you're on the right track. So thank you for sharing your experience. To everybody that tuned in, thank you for asking your questions and putting your comments in the comment section. Please be sure to reach out to Angie if you're interested in helping out with the summer camp. And also, if you have donations or if you want to sponsor her camps, let her know about that too, because we need to help each other out to start closing these gaps. So thanks again, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend and happy Friday. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having me, Meaghan. Thank you.
Bye. This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.